Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is actually all about planning the 2.5 foot by 21 foot bed that I'm in the process of building up. So a lot of it's going to be on the computer. It's going to be screen sharing on the computer, but I wanted to show you some things like in real life so you could kind of have a reference point when you're looking at the screen share. So, like right now I'm standing on my lanai, and if I turn the camera around, you'll see the long bed that I'm talking about. I still have to level it and everything and fill it with soil. So I'm in the planning stages and trying to figure that stuff out. But on the screen share, I have mapped out a grid to do square foot gardening in this whole thing. And right here is where you'll see like A, B, C for that grid. And then square 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to, I think the last one's 22. And also when I talk about like where there's going to be a trellis, I'm putting it on, it's a panel trellis against the back side, so it's basically right vertically along the fence for the last 11 feet. So another part of the video is going through the irrigation source for the bed, and so I wanted to show you in real life what that looks like. So I'm on the side of my house right now. You can see way back there, beyond those bushes, you can see the raised bed right there. And I am standing at the reclaimed water program controller, basically, and then the actual like reclaimed water valves and manifold. So when I talk through the plan about adding valves, that's where I'm talking about. This is the controller that I've got where we currently have like 4 stations. I'm going to add one for the raised bed and another valve for growth in the future. And I'll be able to control it with this. And when I route in real life, I'll do another video about that for sure. But this is where I'm going to have to expand this from 4 valves to 6. I'll have to add another one of these or a bigger one of these. And then I'll trench from here. I'll have to find the existing pipes and just trench alongside them, and follow the line all the way back. There's already sprinklers in the backyard, so I should be able to follow that pipe for the most part. And it's actually a 1-inch PVC pipe that'll run through the ground. And I'll run that 1-inch PVC pipe. Well, see, there's a sprinkler as an example. It's a little bit of a maze to get back to the bed, but I'll trench it, bring it back up here, and right here on this front corner of the bed, I'll have the PVC coming up through the bed, and then I'll have the shut-off valve and the filter and the pressure regulator and everything right here. And I'm going to do it on this side, inside the bed this time, because well, I've done a bed before where I routed the irrigation on the outside, and I'm just looking for something that isn't gonna get in the way when we're like weed whacking. So not something that's not in the way, and I also want a cleaner look. So let's go through the screen share of the plan. Hopefully you follow along and you find it helpful. Okay, so there's 4 slides I want to walk through. This first one is simply the plant plan. And what I want you guys to notice here is my attempt at companion planting. Keep in mind this is only my 2nd season growing, so I did a lot of research trying to put together plants that would go together, but you know, if there's an error, it's just because it's my 2nd season. So like I said earlier, we have this grid so that I could talk through it. This is A, B, C, like I pointed out earlier, and grids 1, 2, 3. This is that front corner where I have that reclaimed water coming in, and this is the far side of the bed at the end of my backyard. So I have a section here from like the first 4 rows that's full of my brassicas and my alliums. if I mispronounce something, it's just because I do a lot of reading, and sometimes I have to guess about how to pronounce things. Um, Maybe I should watch more videos so I can figure out the correct pronunciation of alliums or aliums. Um, so we've got like another thing I want to point out on this particular slide is the quantity per vegetable. So there's plenty of resources out online. You can just Google like square foot gardening, how many per square for Brussels sprouts. And for example, it comes up with the answer is 1. So I put 1 Brussels sprout in my grid A1, and then 7, and it says like to do 9 yellow onions, but this one, remember, my bed has that rounded edge, so I just kind of cut a couple off of that one, and same with the spinach here. So we've got red onions, cabbage, and more red onions. I'm trying onions from seed, not from bulbs. Arugula, Swiss chard, just trying like a high variety of plants because I want to learn as much as possible about these fall vegetables in one season. So you'll notice I have like a huge variety of plants, but maybe only like 1 square dedicated to each one. And then I've basically built in a border here between, other plants that don't plant well next to that first section of brassicas and alliums. So this is just an herb and pollinator barrier of square feet in the garden. This is my attempt at saying, you're not supposed to grow tomatoes next to cabbage, for example. So I think it's going to be good enough to have herbs and pollinators dividing that area. And then we get into the nightshades and alliums, and nightshades really don't play well with others. So I've put them all together with the alliums and herbs. But we'll see how that works out. So I've got San Marzano tomatoes, carrots, eggplant, shishito peppers, and some beets and stuff in there. And I want to point out the several squares of carrots. There's 1, 2, 3. However, they take like 120 days to get to harvest. And so what I'm doing is on sow day, which is October 1st for me. It's just an arbitrary date that I chose. I was trying to drive like this project to closure and actually get some plants in the ground. So I picked October 1st, and I'm going to plant this first square of carrots on October 1st. And then I've put it in my calendar to like 2 weeks later, I'm going to plant the next square. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm going to plant the next square. That way I can stagger the harvesting of the carrots. And I'm doing something similar with radishes that show up in a couple spots on the raised bed plan. And again, we've got this herb and pollinator barrier. This time it's with different herbs and pollinators. And then I'm getting into the gourds and legumes section. So I'm going to try 4 different types of squash, butternut squash, acorn squash, zucchini, and spaghetti squash. Those, if you Google them for spacing, they need 1 plant per 4 square feet. So that's why you see that I've merged the cells on my table here. In this next section, the primary purpose I want to get across is that I've done a lot of research about the timing of all of these plants. I live in Central Florida, and so there's this really great resource from the University of Florida. And so I put a link in the description box below. But all of these, I just wanted to double check that I was okay on the timing and I wasn't going to plant something that was going to totally fail. So all the green ones they check out, they're good. All the yellow ones, I just colored them yellow because technically they don't say October is part of the window. However, I'm doing this on October 1st, so I think I can do it anyway and it'll be fine. So this is the first slide that gets into the irrigation plan, and I wanted to break it up into 2 slides so that I can first explain how I'm showing it without like totally making a slide that is overwhelming to look at. So the black text is all the same as the last 2 slides. It's the plant plan. It's what we've already talked about. it's the same grid numbering and everything like that. And what I've done is kind of tried to draw out the irrigation plan. So earlier in the video when I was over by the controller on the side of my house pointing out like this is the reclaimed water supply, that's represented here by this purple line because purple is the appropriate color for reclaimed water. That's the color of the PVC pipe has to be. So these lines represent the 1-inch PVC pipe. I've got a 1-inch T and a 1-inch, the 1-inch T that goes up to the bed or into the bed, and then up is you got to use an elbow to get up, and then I've got another elbow up there and the head assembly. So the head assembly is coming from Drip Depot. It's part of the drip irrigation plan, and that includes like the pressure regulator, the filter, and a couple of adapter. There's a backflow preventer and there's an adapter between the PVC coupling like fitting and the hose thread fitting. And then like this reclaimed water line is also going to run in front of that bed, parallel to the bed, all the way to the corner of my backyard. And I'm just doing that because like I've already got it all trenched out, and I know I want to do something in that corner. I just don't know what I want to do in that corner yet. So I'm going to go ahead and route it. And that's what I mean about this future garlic strawberry area over here. And so if we go back over by the head assembly at the front left of the bed, I'm just showing like how I'm using like a 1/2-inch poly tubing for the main line, and I'm basically constructing a grid just like the garden in minutes design, but I just couldn't get one that was gonna appropriately fit my garden, so I'm just building it myself. But it's the primary line that's being used to construct the grid is 1/2-inch poly tubing with no holes in it. And then I've got a variety of 1-inch or 1/2-inch crosses and 1/2-inch tees and elbows to make the grid work. And then in a few areas, I'll show you on the next slide some other pieces that I end up using. But I will use like in an area like this spot A1 when I have one Brussels sprout plant. What I'm planning to do is run, you can use a 1/4-inch poly tubing and connect that with a barbed connector to the 1/2-inch line and run it out to the root of the plant, and then just put a button dripper at the end. And so that's what I plan to do in a spot like A1 where I have one plant. And we're going to see how that works. This last slide I know is totally overwhelming. I removed all the text about like the plant name and the plant quantity, and I just put these blue dots to represent where a plant was. And I went ahead and just designed the whole grid with all the cross connections, all the T connections, and all the 1/4-inch line and the button drippers. And this was primarily for me to make sure that when I put the order in at dripdepot.com that I get enough parts. And that I've actually thought about how I'm going to do it. And there is a couple things I want to point out while we're here. Don't be totally overwhelmed by the slide. I'm an engineer, so I like to make stuff like this. You'll notice like on how about like grid A3 and A4, it looks like there's 16 plants there. So I think that was maybe 16 carrots or 16 yellow onions, for example. What I've done is I'm thinking about how to get water to each one of those 16 plants without putting like 16 button drippers and running like 16 1/4-inch lines out to that plant. So what I decided to do was split it in half. That's why you see this vertical line. And I just plan to take a drill with like the smallest drill bit I can find and poke holes in my 1/2-inch tubing and just have the water spray kind of like you see on the garden in minutes design. And I'll start with the smallest drill bit I have and test it, and if it looks like I need to go up in size, I can do that. Or if it looks like I really do need to put in button drippers, I can do that. So this is my attempt at irrigating all of these 300 something plants in this bed. Um, so here we go.